don't forget the lessons. Don't forget the hard times. Don't even sedate yourself against those hard times. I say we do a better job embracing it. And when we do that, then we don't need to get over anything. It's a constant reminder. Now, look, I could talk about the divorce. Why should I get over it? Now, I'm not going to wallow in my own self-pity like I did probably initially for the rest of my life. I'm going to move on, yes, but it's just the way that I respond to it. I'm not so emotionally attached. I'm not so connected. There's a lot of pain that was forgotten. But I also remember a lot of the lessons that I'm hopefully am bringing into my relationship now. Kipp, what's up, brother? Great to see you on this lovely Monday morning.
Yeah, IC's open, end of the year coming, yes. Week before Christmas.
We got a lot going on, man.
Yeah.
It is. It's a busy time of year. I was feeling a little stressed over the weekend, just with everything that's going on and all the demands for time and attention. I'm not unique or different than anybody listening, but it gets a little stressful, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. This is a busy day.
Yeah. I sighed. It was funny. It was like last night, I think it was last night or the night before. I just took a deep breath and I was like sighing. I'm like, and my wife goes, "Oh, what's going on? Like, you stress?" I'm like, "Yeah, just too much going on." And she goes, "Like what?" I'm like, "How much time do you have to go over my list?" Right? I'm like,
also, have you ever been like where somebody's like, "Oh, really? What's going on?" I'm like, so much that I don't want to talk about what's going on because now it's one more thing I don't want to do.
Totally. You just added more work on my list.
Exactly. Yeah. Just put that on more stuff on my to-do list.
Totally. It was really great. The first time I had administrative assistant, she says, "Let's brain dump all the things." And 3 hours later, right? And she's like, "Okay."
Oh boy.
Like, oh yeah, that's a lot. And I'm like, prioritize and execute, which is grab the first things. But these are all the things, right, that are just that need to be addressed eventually that we have going on. And what do you do?
It's little things too. Sometimes it's work related. I have to make this email or follow up with this person or get this thing published or even send a little message, a little text to our editor and say, "Hey, fix this one thing or tweak that, adjust that, do this video, do that video." But then it's Christmas time and it's like, I just had family pictures taken of me and the kids. So now I have to run over to Walmart. I have to get them printed. And then I want to get them framed because I thought that'd be a good present for my mom. I can say that because my mom doesn't listen to the podcast anymore. She's had more than enough of me. And, so it's like all these like little things that just add up and I'm just trying to like diffuse and not bring as much onto my plate. So it's good.
And it's
first world problems. It's fine.
And self-inflicted, right? So everyone,
absolutely.
Everyone relax. We're not moaning and complaining. We get it.
I am.
And everyone knows your handle. So when you, just lean into Ryan and let him know that he shouldn't be moaning and complaining about his life.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Stop whining. Do something about it, or complaining without a solution is just whining, right? Or something like that. So yeah. I have no solutions other than just get busy. Actually, I do have one solution. It's this right here.
It's the battle planner.
It's the battle planner. I have used this thing for 10 years now. And I'm telling you what, when I use this effectively, and we created it, and still sometimes I have a hard time using it correctly. But when I use this and I'm diligent in using this, everything else gets better. When I don't use this, I get stressed out. I can't prioritize my tasks. I don't know what types of things I need to get done on a daily basis. So battle planner, that's a huge resource for me personally too.
Yeah, and I can't count how many times I've had this conversation with people of the theory of, well, I just need to work harder, right? Or I need to remember to do that. It's like, what's your system? Oh, I don't have a system. Dude, if you don't have a system, you will drop the ball. Like, get a system. If it's important, write it down. If you don't have a place for taking notes, take notes, right? You need systems, especially high achieving individuals that have a lot going on. and relying on your memory and hoping that you'll remember to do something that is important is not a strategy.
Do you know that that line on Grumpy Old Men when one of the guys loses his pole, his green duck fishing pole, and the other one says something about how stupid his pole is, and he's like, that fish is caught, or that pole's caught more fish than you've lied about.
Yeah.
You remember that scene?
No, but that's hilarious.
It's hilarious. And I can't help but think I've lost more ideas because I haven't written them down than ideas that I've implemented. I have lost so many $1 million ideas because I don't have a system. I'm going to call out one thing you said, though. You said, especially if you're a high achieving man, you need a system. No, I would actually say, especially if you're a low achieving man, because high achieving men, guess what they already have? Systems.
Yeah. Low
achieving men don't have systems. So if you want to be a high achieving man or a higher achieving man, have a system. Orderofman.com/battle planner, by the way, is where you're going to get that.
Excellent. All right. Shall we jump into headlines?
Yeah, I don't really have a headline today, but I have, I just want to do a little bit of a pitch for the podcast that came out yesterday. Obviously some of the big news that we see is Diddy's sexual indiscretions and allegations. I think Jay-Z has now been implicated in some of that as well.
Totally.
Obviously, Epstein was a big case years ago. And I had a gentleman by the name of Nick Bryan on the podcast, and he has done work over 22 years on sex trafficking, specifically with children. So he's very qualified, very well researched. And we talked about the blackmail. This is what blew my mind. Blackmail.
That's why they do these, really, right?
Yes.
It's a blackmail strategy.
Well, I don't think it originally starts as that. I think you have individuals who are malicious in intent and, pedophiles and all of this. And then over time, I think what ends up happening is this is an individual we can use for our pursuits, our political pursuits. So we talk a little bit about political blackmail throughout history with Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, all the way up to
that's cool.
Clarence Thomas he was talking about. So it's pretty interesting when you started to get into the blackmail systems or strategies for amassing political power. Anyways, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. And also he has a nonprofit called Epstein Justice, which is trying to not only bring justice to the individuals who have been victimized by Epstein and his clientele, but also making sure that those who have done wrong get brought to justice and ensuring these types of things don't happen again. So that's my headline. Really cool podcast. Josh Wellman, who's in the Iron Council, introduced me to Nick, and it was a good show. Very good show.
Cool. I love it. No, my headline or just my up at night or whatever's on my mind is pretty much these drones, man. It's crazy. Have you seen some of the footage around this? It's nuts.
I actually haven't stayed too much. It's not that I don't care. It's that one, for whatever reason, isn't. We already know what it is. It's foreign spies. That's what it is. I'm just convinced.
That's what I think too. And what I was going to read here is so who was it? It's Van Drew. He's a senator in New Jersey, and he said the following. He says, "I'm going to tell you the real deal. Iran launched a mothership that contains these drones. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. They've been launched from there." And then it goes on that he has insight that this ship that carries these drones is missing from port. He can't disclose his resources, and that these things need to be shot down. And the part that just drives me mad is the lack of communication, the lack of information. No one seems like they have any idea what's going on, right? And this is your federal government, or at least they're not communicating it. But then all we have to do is look past history and remember the little balloon thing.
There's a Chinese balloon.
Yeah. I'm like, you guys couldn't even stop a balloon from floating around. So like the idea that you guys know what you're doing when it comes to these drones. I'm like, they probably don't. And which is just crazy.
I don't agree with that.
You think they know?
You are way too. Of course they know.
Why aren't they shooting them down?
If we want to get into conspiracy theories, we can start talking about landing on the moon. Okay, let's just say hypothetically, you believe that we've landed on the moon, and I do believe that one, that we have landed on the moon. If we can do that, but we can't shoot a drone that's 200, 300, whatever feet off the ground in the sky, and we can't shoot them down.
Totally. So why don't you think they do?
A slow because it's an arrangement. It's a conspiracy. It's two parties conspiring for whatever purpose. I can't tell you what that purpose is, but you can't tell me that America didn't arrange with China to allow them to fly a balloon over our airspace. And if we really believe that these are foreign drones, you can't tell me that we couldn't just take either just a regular, M16 or whatever and shoot them down, let alone helicopters or
other drones,
aircraft.
Yeah,
we can do whatever we want to those things. So we absolutely can. The only reason we wouldn't is because there's an arrangement that they will not be shot down and they will allowed to be flown in United States airspace.
And
what
that's
other
why they don't
explanation is
communicate.
there?
I have no idea. That's why it bothers me so much.
There isn't one. I don't think you need to let it bother you because we know exactly. I'm not saying that. It should bother us, but we already know what's happening. And so, just shoot them down. And I've heard other people say, well, we don't know what they are. Right. So shoot them down.
Even
We're not
more
going
of
to
a
give them
reason
the
to shoot 'em
benefit of the
down.
doubt.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
that's what I think. You're being way too nice. I don't know. They don't know. No, they know. 100%.
I actually,
they know.
the older I get, so full disclosure here, I was having a conversation with someone last weekend. I'm starting to think that we didn't land on the moon. I'm totally
Really?
I'm totally getting down that path, man. I'm like, I don't think we did it. I think it was all like they faked the whole thing just so they could keep up popular opinion. It's during the Cold War, and
Beat Russia.
and they justified
totally,
it. Yeah.
I totally get the motive. I'm not saying I don't believe that. Do you know how many people would need to be in on a conspiracy like that?
To keep it quiet. Yeah. And
I
I've
feel
heard
the
you
same
say
way
that.
about
I'm like, oh, that's
9/11. It's like, do I think it was an inside job? I guess it depends on what you mean by inside job. Do I think that it was orchestrated or had some influence? Of course. Were there arrangements made? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if the CIA or the FBI went and set bombs inside the World Trade Center. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's hard for me to believe because thousands and thousands of people, dude, you can't even tell your sister something that happened at work about an employee without it getting around town. You're telling me that thousands of people working for the highest echelons of government aren't going to flap their lips? Come on.
Yeah.
That's a stretch for me.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But I see the other side too. There is merit to the other side, and I do see that as well.
Yeah. I mean, my main thing is just that we've never gone back. I'm like,
Yes, we have.
landed on the moon.
To the moon?
Yeah.
Yes, we've landed on the moon.
When? When's the last time we've
Let
been
me
back?
pull it up.
Since
Let
the
me pull it up.
60s? And then
How
did you
many
see,
times?
And have you seen the footage from, was it India? When they had a rover on the moon, like how 8-bit it was, and then our version is like high def.
That's funny.
I'm gonna get
humans have landed on the moon. Most people don't know this.
Yeah.
But humans have landed on the moon 6 times.
6 times. Which countries?
We have during the
Just
Apollo
us.
missions. I don't know what other countries. I'll look at that, but Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 6 separate times. 12 men have walked on the lunar surface in total. Let's see.
Yeah, this is all in the 60s, though. 69,
Late
69,
60s, early 70s.
71. Yeah.
Let's see.
But to your point, that's a lot of people
you're
to
right.
be keeping a lie.
So the Soviet Union, China, India, and Japan have landed spacecraft on the moon.
Yeah. Never a
But
man.
as this says, never a human being.
Yeah.
That's a little fishy. All right, well, we'll let you guys decide. Now you got me thinking. Now you got me second guessing now.
Leave it in the comments. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to field questions from the Iron Council. On that note, enrollment's open. So if you want to join us in the Iron Council, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. Learn more. Sign up.
We should start a conspiracy channel inside the Iron Council where we just talk about these crazy conspiracies. I don't want to do that. We're not doing that, guys. That would get wild quick.
Derailed. Yeah. All right. Charles Phillips, what is the best or worst Christmas? All of these questions are like end of year Christmas oriented. Charles Phillips, what is the best or worst Christmas present you have ever received? Put someone on blast.
So I made this post the other day about what guys, I made it on X, and I got into a debate actually about something. So this is what I wrote. Let's see, where did I write it? Things men don't want for Christmas. Small items of clothing. So ties, socks, underwear, etc.
Yeah.
Number 2, as seen on TV, tools. If we wanted it, we would have already bought it.
Yeah. And those are cheap anyway, and they're going to break.
They're going to fall apart. And number 3, clever gifts. If he tells you what he wants, just buy him that. Don't think, gee, that's lame. I'm going to buy him this weird, obscure thing instead. Just buy him the thing that he asked for. So what's the worst gift that I've ever gotten? I don't know what the worst is, but I'll tell you the worst Christmas I've ever had, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah.
It was the Christmas before my divorce was finalized. My ex-wife and I were keeping it together, and I was still working on trying to maintain the family, but I kind of knew where it was going at that point, and it was really, really hard. That was a hard Christmas. And then this Christmas, I don't have my kids with me this Christmas, so that's hard. There's all these new things that I'm having to adapt and grow with, but it's fine. But yeah, those can be really challenging for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one of those Christmases, and it was a tough one.
I did one year in Iraq during Christmas too. That was interesting. Yeah.
Was it kind of neat though to be with other individuals also without their families?
I wouldn't use the word neat, but it was fine. We're all a brotherhood, and I remember certain aspects of it, and it was a unique experience for sure. I remember we walked to the chow hall, which was on our base, and we had contractors from, I think some were from Pakistan and some were from India. And I walked in, and there was this huge slab of butter, like 2 feet long of butter carved into baby Jesus. It was hilarious.
And someone probably did that not to be funny. It was like supposed to be
it actually
neat.
looked, from what I remember of it, it was funny, but I was actually pretty impressed too.
Yeah,
so they must have done a decent
just
job
weird
on
to
it.
like carve up baby Jesus and spread him on your bread.
Yeah, I didn't like dip my knife into his, into his bosom.
You started
or anything,
at his feet at least. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt a little blasphemous if I would have done that. So I left baby Jesus alone and went for the margarine instead that day. But yeah.
That's funny. I hate cheap things that I'm never going to use, because it's not just like I'm not going to use it. It's like a waste of space and resources on planet Earth. I hate like someone
Tell us how you
wasted time making it. It used resources. It was given to me, and it goes back into a landfill. Like, talk about the ultimate form of waste. So just crappy things. I hate crappy things. Best Christmas. I was raised. We were pretty poor, and we were living in Kanab. How old was I? This is probably like 5th grade, maybe. And there's a Radio Shack in downtown off Main Street in Kanab, Utah. And people would submit names of families for that would have like a Radio Shack Christmas. And our family was I don't know, was submitted, and we got a Christmas from this store with all these toys and stuff on Christmas morning. And so I was like the handout, like we're like the handout family once. And I remember it was a couple things. It was like we had these blankets that people made, and then we got these toys, and it was just, I don't know, like it was the spirit of Christmas, right? Like this idea of all these strangers that we didn't know, that didn't say who it was, making sure that we had a Christmas when I was little. It was special.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love stuff like mine's way more selfish than yours, Kipp. You are definitely the good guy on this podcast. I'm like, yeah, I like this one
You're
thing
like, I
got.
still haven't gotten my best gift.
Yeah, to be determined. No, I'll tell you, my best gift that I ever received, I can't remember what year, but I got this gold 49ers starter jacket and a 49ers hat. And when I was young, like
And starter
9,
was a
10,
sweet
11,
brand. Yeah.
somewhere right in there. I was a huge 49ers fan, and Jerry Rice and Joe Montana were my heroes. My bike lock was always 49, 16. 16 is Joe Montana, or 1680, 80's Jerry Rice. The code on the garage was always like 1680.
Pin numbers to his
all my
debit
pin
card.
numbers for everything. You know it all. But yeah, man, that gold jacket and the hat, phew, that was it for me. That was so cool.
Yeah, I had one of those starter jackets. It was a Kings, the hockey team.
Oh, yeah.
So it was gangster. Yeah, it was funny.
All
right.
That and I remember when I moved to small town southern Utah, it was starter jackets and what was it, Gerbeau jeans.
Yeah,
Never got a pair of those.
Me either.
Could not bring myself to doing it.
Too expensive too. And Guess
That's
jeans
probably
were
true.
Guess jeans were popular too.
Yeah.
Oh man, funny. All right, Danny Skolnick, what is in your current contribution quadrant, and what will it be? What will your contribution quadrant be next quarter for both of you?
Yeah, so my contribution quadrant, if you guys don't know what that is to be a man of value. And I know that's pretty broadly determined, but for last quarter was to finalize our Divorce Not Death course, because that's going to be a valuable tool. Unfortunately, it's not going to be done in time, so we don't always hit our goals. So I had to reevaluate and think about what needs to be included, because I want to do it right. And so that will be part of what I do moving into the next quarter. My contribution goal for next quarter is really trying to boost and increase our social media following. And I have some very specific strategies. I've invested money with a marketing firm to help, because we need to get this mission to reclaim and restore masculinity out to the masses. And I think the way that we did it 10 years ago was good at the time, and a lot of grassroots. But the way that social media is working now, if you really want to build a mission, a movement, it requires capital different than it did 10 years ago. And so we're trying to figure out strategies to take this thing to the next level. So that's my contribution as we roll into 2025.
Got it. Yeah, mine was focused on really my own personal development around leadership, and it was dedication of so many, well, I should say so many hours, at least an hour a day, focus in that space. And then really next quarter is to really, it sounds weird to say this, I need to come up with a different phrase, but like really just button things up around my responsibilities in my day job. And so I'm dedicating, kind of the term I'm using is time around addressing the big rocks, right? The important but not urgent items that often get overlooked in the whirlwind of work. And I really need to button up those strategic areas. So it'll be really focused in the same area of just dedicating time to it each day.
Kipp, I know you and I have had separate conversations about this, so I know a little bit about what your objective and tactics are, because we have accountability to each other in the Iron Council as well. Button things up is, I know you said you probably shouldn't use that, and I just want to be clear on that with other guys. Buttoning things up is not a great objective because it's so loose.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you out because I know that you have identified what those metrics are and what would actually mean success. And that's the difference. A lot of people will say, for example, I want to have a better relationship with my wife. I mean, that's good. That's great. We all want that, I would think. But what exactly does that mean, and how do you actually know? And so you have to quantify it. I will say some of the hard to quantify objectives prove to be a challenge because you don't know if you're getting better. So one thing that you can do is you can create your own metrics. So and you can even make it a system or a game. So for example, if it's to better connect with a spouse, what does that mean? Well, it could be more intimacy, like we're in the bedroom together more. It could be more date nights. That could be a metric. It could be more quality time, the amount of time that we spend together. It could actually just be an overall sense of feeling of being connected and in love with each other. I don't know what those metrics are for you. You can determine what they are and then communicate that with your wife and say, hey, let's rate each other on these things. You know, in the bedroom, we're at a 5 right now. Let's bump that to a 7. What would that take?
Mid session, just like, hey, how are you rating this session right now?
What do you think? What do you think? Come on, give me some feedback here, babe. What are you thinking right now? Do you like that?
Is this a 5? Like,
she's like, yeah, could you make it a 7 to 8, please?
She's like, this is about a 2 going right now. What we're experiencing right now is a 2. You need to step it up.
I hope you understand, guys, we're joking. And so please don't do that. And if you do, don't tell her that you heard it here on this podcast.
Yeah, and if you do, then please share how that went because we all want to laugh about it.
I have been accused on a couple of occasions, I think 2 in particular, of breaking up marriages. So please don't throw me under the bus. But the point that I'm making is you guys communicate, talk with each other.
Yeah.
Do you need to communicate more? Do you need to go on more dates? Do you need to have more sex? Do you need to, I don't know, whatever. Figure out what it is, put it on a sliding scale, and then be open over a quarter about how it's improving and getting the feedback you need so that you guys are both feeling loved and feeling connected, if that's what your objective is.
Yeah. All right. Edward Cluck, any regrets about 2024? How and what will you do to turn that regret into a positive lesson or experience moving forward into the next year?
Admittedly, I didn't take the opportunity to look at these questions ahead of time. I kind of wish I would have on this question, and I might think of something, but I can't think of a specific regret that I have. I think generally there are things that have come up where they didn't turn out the way that I wanted, or I could have, simple things, you know, maybe I could have handled a conversation with my son better, or a disagreement with my girlfriend a little bit with some more grace or class, or made a different decision. But fortunately, they all seem to be pretty minor. One of the lessons that we can take away, though, is how large a problem is really just based on your perception of it.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty good throughout life of chalking up my failures, not dismissing them and throwing them away, but just that was a failure. And what do I need to do better? What can I learn from it? How can I improve? And how can I drive on? I don't know.
Moving on from it fairly well.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Not moving on, moving up.
Moving
up.
I
want to be better.
Yeah.
And so I that's one of the things that I don't know if that's nurture or nature or a combination of both, but I've never really taken failure as catastrophic. It's painful. I've had a lot of dark moments and sad times and regrets in my life, but I've also learned a lot from those things as well. So I'm not here to tell you I don't have regrets. I do. I just can't really think of anything that happened this last year where I thought, oh, that was catastrophic. Knock on wood. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. I don't have anything major either. Full disclosure, though, I beat myself up way too much. So, like, when I first read this question, any regrets, I'm like, how much time do we got, man? Like
Yeah.
I could come up with a list of all the things I could have done better. My workouts could have been better. I could have trained more. I could have got way more done at work than I actually got done. My relationship could be better. Like, and I have to, and I've been reading this book called The Gap and the Gain, and I was going to actually talk to you about this. I actually think it's something we should cover in the IC in the future.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
But man, I really needed that book because am I improving? And the answer is yes. But I rarely celebrate the gain. And the gap is always there, and I'm always seeing the gap as a negative thing against some ideal. And guess what? If I'm not careful, I'm going to be miserable because I'll never meet it. Meanwhile, while I'm improving, I'll never be celebrating the win. So that's an area I need to improve on. Edward, I love the question around turning around regret. And
I do too.
I really want to call that out because we've had a lot of guys, talk to us probably personally, questions on this podcast around moving beyond their past, having a tough, scenario that they dealt with probably through agency and choice, and trying to move beyond it and trying to reinvent or create themselves and or dealing with just the remorse and regret of what you've done. And the answer to that is the way you move on is by becoming a better version of yourself. So good that you can't help but be almost in a sick way grateful for the thing, because you wouldn't be who you are today if it wasn't for those past choices. And that's how we move on from regret, is by becoming a better version.
So I agree with everything that you're saying. I really just want to be careful of the terminology that we use, because a lot of guys will come and say, how do I move on? How do I move beyond? Those are a couple things you said. Yeah. Another one that I often hear is, how do I get over fill in the blank?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a productive way to look at it. Why do you need to move on? Why do you need to get over something? Bad things happen. To your point, a lot of it is self-induced. Some of it is beyond your control. But we shouldn't get over it. We shouldn't move beyond it. I know what you're saying when you say that, but I just want to make sure, guys, don't forget the lessons.
Yeah.
Don't forget the hard times. Don't even sedate yourself against those hard times. I've done that, where you'll drink or drugs or whatever your vice of choice is in order to disassociate from whatever you might be dealing with. I say we do a better job embracing it. And when we do that, then we don't need to get over anything. It's a constant reminder. Now, look, I could talk about the divorce. Why should I get over it? Now, I'm not going to wallow in my own self-pity like I did probably initially for the rest of my life. I'm going to move on, yes. But it's just the way that I respond to it. I'm not so emotionally attached. I'm not so connected. There's a lot of pain that was forgotten. But I also remember a lot of the lessons that I'm hopefully am bringing into my relationship now and the way that I lead my kids. So learn the lessons, but don't feel like you need to escape from anything. All of the stuff that's happened to you in your life, even the horrible and the traumatic, makes you who you are. And without that, Carl Jung talks about it as shadow work. Without being aware of that shadow or that darker side of you, you're not whole. You're walking around pretending that you're somebody you're not. And then it comes out in very non-productive ways in your life and self-destructive.
Yeah. I have a good example of this. I had a conversation with someone probably about a month or so ago, and the language he used was, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And at first it was, I'm exhausted of everybody still holding on to my past, right? And I'm like, and my suggestion to him, which luckily connected, was, no, you're exhausted because you're not dealing in reality. And the reality of it was, you're still making excuses for your past. Oh, well, I did this because of blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, stop making excuses. Like, you got to own it. And the reality of it is you're a dipshit. Got it. right? I made mistakes. Got it. But he was, at the time, he was constantly loading it with reasons. Oh yeah, well, but I did that because of blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you're trying to convince everybody that your past was something that it wasn't. There's power in dealing in reality. And then that way you can then do something about it, right? Yes, I was that. And now this is what I'm doing moving forward.
So I brought up a couple of, I've got my phone because I wanted to pull up Facebook on this real quick because I've done something over the past, I've always known to do this, but I've been a little better at doing this over the past week or two on social media when people call me out or call up my past. And so, you know, I'd made a post because I'm doing some stuff with Daily Wire Plus, and this guy writes, Ryan has no credibility with me. He's a hypocrite of the first order. I love Jordan Peterson, though. So it's easy to take things like that that is personal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as personal as it can get.
Yeah.
So it's easy to take that to heart. And I know you're a huge fan of the 4 agreements. Never take anything personally is one of them. So in the past, I might have lashed out or said, you're an idiot or whatever. And I'll tell you what was very liberating and freeing. Here's what I said. I definitely fell short and failed. The only 2 options I have now are to wallow in it or pick myself up and do better. Only one man never failed or faltered. It certainly wasn't you or me. Another comment I got, I said this, failing to live, he's talking about how I failed to live up to our ideals and motto. And I said, failing to live up to it doesn't mean I don't understand it. I definitely fell short, but there's redemption in picking yourself up and doing better. Some people will never make room in themselves for that. It's unfortunate, but too many people are too heavily invested in watching other men stumble. Man, that is so liberating for me. I don't need to play gotcha with these guys. I don't need to take it to heart.
Yep.
I don't need to lash out. I don't even need to respond, quite frankly, but I'm doing that for me because it's helping me with the discipline of accepting reality. There is truth in what both of those individuals said. Did they need to say it? No. Should they have said it? I don't know. It's up for them to determine. But they did. And there's power in me acknowledging what is true, even if it's really uncomfortable to hear. That's what gives you the fuel to move forward.
Yeah. It's great, man. John Pedroza, what are some traditions that you and your family partake in for Christmas and New Year's?
This is kind of like the Thanksgiving one. I do the same things everybody does. Like we open a present the day before.
The night before.
Or the night before. Yeah, that's right. Christmas party. New traditions for us are probably going to happen. I told you this is a Christmas without the kids. So there has to be something new because I'm not with the kids all the time. So I'm just trying to think of what that might look like. I think one thing I'd like to do is maybe every year or every other year, I guess, because that's when I have the kids, is do a small vacation somewhere or, take them. And I can't probably do that every Christmas that I have them, but maybe Christmas or New Year's, a 2 to 3 day cabin one time, or I don't know. I'm kind of trying to think through that a little bit. Of course, we read the story of Christ's birth the night before. We used to cut down the Christmas tree. Admittedly, we don't do that anymore. I should actually bring that one back because that was a cool bonding time. But yeah, I think the same things as everybody else. Do you have any unique ones?
Yeah, I mean, we hop on the tracks and like go downtown and go ice skating and go see the Christmas lights at the temple downtown. Our Christmas Eve, we have a Christmas Eve dinner, and dinner's followed up with a talent show. Oh, that's kind of unique.
That's cool.
All the kids are expected to do a talent, and it's just fun. That's about it. I mean, usually around Christmas time, we'll do something that we call snaked, is what I call it. Snow, naked in the snow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And so I'll tell my kids once the snow's deep enough, we're like, all right, naked time. And everyone gets in their underwear or shorts and we go out and do snow angels in the yard.
Oh, that's funny. That's cool. I like stuff like that.
It's just this thing that they hate doing that, like, it'll be wild. You know what I mean?
But they'll remember that when they're 30 and 40 years old, they're like, remember when Dad had that stupid snake it thing and we hated it, but we had to do it. And they'll laugh and they'll smile about it.
Yeah. Yeah. They do love,
awesome.
like it's always, no one wants to do it, but every year it's always a memory, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
A couple of things that came to mind as you were saying that. So the Christmas party thing was big. Ugly sweater parties were a big thing. White elephants, gag white elephants are always fun. Yeah. Those are a couple things I really enjoyed. The other thing that I've done is Polar Express rides are really cool. And there's one in just about every town, at least if it's, somewhat sizable where you can, I thought you were going to say that when you're talking about tracks.
Yeah, we've done the Heber Creeper, I think they call it up here.
Yeah. You got to come up with a better name. That's a bad name for it, but whatever. Is that funny. Santa Claus? Is he the Heber Creeper?
He's the creeper,
or what is that? What is that? Sneaking into little kids' bedrooms at night and giving them gifts, whether they're naughty or nice.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this. Koa asked me the other night. He's like, so is he watching us all the time? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, even when I'm changing? And I'm like...
You're like, except for that.
Yeah, no, not when you're changing your clothes. Freaky
I usually
Santa.
just say, what do you think? Is he watching? What do you think? I don't think he is. I'm like, cool. Then that's all you need to think about. All right. What's next?
All right. James Kong, what's your favorite achievement this year? And what is something you wish you did in 2024? I should have brought this question up by the other one, but maybe greatest achievement.
Greatest achievement in 2024. I don't know.
Yeah.
I suffer from the same affliction that you do, Kip. I have goals.
Yeah.
And then I do them, and then I pick a new goal, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember what my goal was. I will say this. A lot of this year was a rebuilding year for me. Personally, professionally, relationships with my kids. The woman I'm dating, we've been together for over a year now. This was a rebuilding year. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about what I like and what I don't like. I've learned how to be more gracious with myself and my performance, not to excuse or let myself off the hook, but just to understand that I'm human. Yeah. I've done a lot of healing this year. I've done a lot of reflecting and journaling. I've had lonely days and nights, probably more of them this year than I have in my entire life. But all in all, it was a really good year. And I feel like maybe for the first time in a really long time, I feel like I have my feet under me.
Yeah.
It's not that I went and ran this Spartan race and I'm nothing against that, or that I did some great thing in business or had this huge personal victory. I feel like my feet are under me. And at this point, I feel like I'm even catching my stride again a little bit. And that feels really good.
And what's great about what you shared, Ryan, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, none of that had anything to do with a job, financial scenario, or anything else, but 100% mental.
Yeah, but yes. But ironically, maybe not ironically, but as a result of doing the mental work, the physical realm responds.
Yeah.
So the way that your kids communicate with you responds. The way that your employer or clients perceive you is impacted. Yeah. So it's not to say that I didn't have those professional and personal victories. I did, but they were a result, the inevitable result of doing the inner work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Two things that come to mind. Like, I just felt like this was a good year for me. Some guys know, like, the executive role I'm in is new. It's been new for the past year. And I'm, like you use this term, like kind of your stride. I feel like I've reached my stride in this, right? Like I'm good at it. I'm killing it. And I feel good about it, right? And I can see where I fit and where I'm performing, not just within my organization, but with my peers. And I feel really confident about my role and how I've been doing. And then the second thing is us probably finishing that house. off the water. It's actually built and we can enjoy it, right? And that was probably a big milestone for us this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing that I'm really proud of you about this year?
Yeah.
Is launching your leadership development company and business. Man, I thought the world of you for a long time, Kipp, and to see that come to fruition and see how you're sharing your message and articulating your message and getting better at sharing it. Like when I watch you do that, I'm very excited for you. So I don't know that you are not proud of that, but I am proud of that in watching you do that.
Yeah, I am actually proud of it. And it's, you know how it is. I mean, we've had these conversations, like it's so hard. This would be 100% harder if I weren't talking with you, right? It's always hard to hit record and talk to yourself, right? In a screen.
True.
You know, and to put yourself out there, and you've shared that story of like your willingness to light yourself on fire and let people watch. And I've never actually confirmed this with you. But what that means to me is that choosing to take on a higher purpose than how you look. And that's really what I've had to really connect to is like, you know, whether I look good or my concern about looking good or avoidance of looking bad isn't the point. The point is that this subject or this topic is truly important to me. And I'm choosing to put myself out there for something bigger than the acceptance of other individuals or the concern of looking good.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, how many people truly want to subject themselves to critique from strangers, to anybody? Not very many people.
Yeah.
And the only people who do it successfully are the ones that care so much about whatever their message or their craft or their trade is that they're willing to subject themselves to the critique that inevitably will come. But they're doing it because, to your point, there's something bigger in it. There's something greater. There's a mission or a calling or a purpose that goes well beyond their own, it could be safety, their own security, their own well-being in a lot of cases. So the lighting yourself, I've said the light yourself on fire and let other people watch you burn. Like you are the light. You have to be. You have talents. Everybody who's listening has a gift, has a story, has a lesson, has experiences, has skill sets. You're obligated to use them. And you're obligated to make yourself the best light possible because somebody needs to hear what you have to share. There will be somebody who listens to this podcast, lots of somebodies, in fact, because of the levels that we've reached, that their life will drastically change for the better because of the work you and I are doing and other people as well.
Yeah.
That is powerful, man.
Yeah.
What's the alternative? Sit around and I don't know what, punch numbers on a keyboard and do something I'm, miserable at and not enjoy the watching. This guy I can't remember his name. I wish I could remember his name. He sent me a message the other day. This was probably maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. And he had this goal of fitting into his military jacket that he wore before he retired. And he had it on and he had this white shirt on underneath and he had his jacket on and literally it would not close. He just got too big.
Yeah.
And he sent me a message a couple of weeks ago. He's like, "Hey, Ryan, I did it." That's all he said. And he sent me hold on. Going to get a little emotional on this one. He sent me a before and after. Man, he looks sharp. He has the jacket on. It's fitted perfectly. The buttons close. He even just looking at his demeanor, the way he's standing proud of his accomplishment. We can't take all the credit for that, but he's part of this community and he's decided to do things and we've given him tools to do it. You're willing to light yourself on fire when you see stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, man. Nathan Strubble, what tactics do you recommend to not be so self-conscious?
I think it actually goes back to what we just said. Self-conscious is selfish. I'm trying to think about this. I'm thinking in my mind here a little bit. it's okay to be conscious of what you're doing and how you're showing up and how you're presenting and the way you're living your life. That's okay. But when you put self in front of it, it almost turns into selfish or excessive, where you're worrying, oh, what do people think of the way I look? What if they don't like this? What if I fail? What if they say mean or hurtful things? Now you're just worried about you. But so I got ready today and I went to the gym. I woke up on time. I worked out hard with my training partner. I came home. I took a shower. I put on presentable clothes. I trimmed and shaved and did my hair. I actually don't have to do any of that. I work at home. I'm alone. Like nobody's here. I didn't have to go to the gym. I didn't have to shower. I don't have to put pants on. I do have pants on. Like I don't have to do any of that. And I do it. Why? Because I want to look good? Yes, but deeper than that, because I want to present well to you. To everybody who's listening to this pod, I'm not self-conscious to the point of like, what if? No, I do things because I want to impact you. So I put a message out there. I invest in technology and equipment and things that are important to move my purpose and mission forward. And if you're self-conscious, what that's telling me is that your own security is more important than your mission or the lack of mission that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's using that analogy of lighting yourself on fire or being a light on the hill. You can't have reach. You can't be the light on the hill and not be seen.
Yeah.
It comes with the territory, right? And it goes back to that previous question is we have to be willing to be courageous and say that the light shining is more important than the possible or perceived judgments that we might receive.
You know, there's a huge misconception in this talking point because I already hear a lot of guys listening to this podcast who will say like, oh, my reach isn't important. You know, just the little things like I don't want my ego to get in the way. And they're trying to present this false sense of humility. And I think I understand where they're coming from. But if you're telling me that reach isn't important, you're flat out wrong.
Playing small.
Take the greatest example that we have in Jesus Christ. I remember I had Grant Cardone on the podcast years and years ago. And he said something that was a little harsh, but I don't think he's wrong. He said, if Jesus Christ was walking on this earth, he'd have a fleet of jets to help him spread the message. And it was very brash.
Yeah.
Almost blasphemy. But also, no, that's actually probably true, wouldn't he? Doesn't he believe that his message is so important that he would use every bit of technology at his disposal to share it? Of course that's true. Yeah. Of course it is. And so if you're like, oh, my reach doesn't matter, my influence doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if I have credibility, you're wrong. It's why you're amassing it. Are you amassing it to prop yourself up, or are you amassing it and developing it and cultivating it so that you can serve others? That's the difference. Is it about you, or is it about other people? If it's about you, you're wrong. If it's about others, absolutely, you should work to build up as much credibility, as much income, as much influence that you possibly can so you can do good in the world.
Yeah. And maybe just a little, I don't know, a thought for you, Nathan, as you are addressing this in your own life that I find powerful is realizing that everybody is constantly operating from looking good and the avoidance of looking bad in almost everything that they do. And in the grand scheme of things, even the comment that someone leaves on social media about someone else is more likely rooted in them looking good and not as much about the comment that itself. So just realize the human condition that most people are so obsessed with themselves that they really don't care about the way you look or how I look as much as we think. Yeah. And that's just powerful to realize.
I was, I got out of the gym this morning and I was walking to my truck and I park in the back row because my truck doesn't turn real well. So like working in and navigating into small parking spaces doesn't always go well. So I park in the back. And I'm walking out to the back, and I got done a little late, and all the morning people are leaving, getting ready for work. And so it's a little empty in the parking lot. And I have my GMC 3/4-ton silver pickup sitting in the stall. And right next to me is this brand new lifted, I don't know Dodges very well, but it's a rad truck.
Yeah.
It's black. It's all blacked out. It's lifted. I'm like, dang, that truck looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And my truck is not a small truck, but it's dwarfed in comparison to this truck.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking to my truck, another truck pulls in, and it's a GMC, and it's lifted. It's brand new. It's black. It's the Denali HD, and he pulls in right next to me, and I'm like, this is awesome. I look at my truck. I actually thought my truck was pretty cool. Until those two trucks pulled in next to me. Comparison is the thief of joy. I was happy with my truck.
Yeah.
2 seconds later, I'm like,
My truck
do
sucks.
I need a new truck?
Yeah.
I might need a new truck. Maybe I should. And then I caught myself and thought, it doesn't matter what hit. That guy and that guy's truck payment are worth probably more than my mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And maybe or maybe not, I don't know, and I don't care. They don't get to enjoy the same vacations or financial privileges that I do. It doesn't really matter if I'm right or wrong, has no relevancy in my life.
Or just the generic idea that there's a price of all things. So guess what? Those trucks have a price, and that price is a different price than your truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always.
So
Yeah.
I felt inferior as I was walking up to what relatively looked like a small truck, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a small truck. It's a big truck.
Yeah.
It's clean. It's older. Yeah, it's got some mileage on it, but I take care of it. It could probably use, a detailing, but other than that, like, it's fine. I have other things I'm worried about. Don't let yourself get wrapped up in what everybody around you is doing and think because they do it, you have to.
I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because how often do we feel or we think that people's like self-consciousness have to do with the comparison to others? Absolutely. Absolutely. Good call.
Some of the most successful people in life that I know are the most unassuming. You can look at it from a position of wealth. Some of the wealthiest people. Warren Buffett drives like an old Chevy pickup truck and looks like a complete slob. He's one of the richest men in the world.
Yeah.
If you look at another one, we talked about this several weeks ago, and I can't remember who it was, but there was that boxer that got into an altercation at a game with another guy.
Yeah, totally.
And the guy was yapping and barking at him, and the world champion boxer was laughing and just diffused and walked away. He would have destroyed him.
Yeah.
Some of the best fighters, the toughest, the strongest, you would never know it because they aren't wrapped up in the vanity because they're focused on the mission.
Yeah.
Mission solves all of that.
Yeah. I love it. Joe Hahara, hopefully I got that right, Joe. Ryan and Kipp.
You definitely did not. Definitely did
It
not.
sounded good to me. Ryan and Kipp, I'm going to start dating in 2025. Being in a relationship is part of my vision, and I'm currently working on implementing goals and tactics in my battle plan to accomplish being in a loving and healthy relationship. This is getting good. For some background, I've been divorced since 2020. My ex-wife and I dated for 5 years and married for 5, and I'm currently 37. I dated a bit in 2020, but ended up getting a master's program, put that on hold. Do you mind sharing your approach to getting back to dating? Did you use any online apps, social clubs, church, using friend network, etc.? Any tips for dating in your 30s? Thanks for your advice.
I'll definitely address that. First,
Yeah.
I just want a word of caution on making that your objective because a lot of that is out of your hands.
Yeah.
And what ends up, potentially what could happen here is you go on a few dates and you're like, oh shit, this is my 90-day plan. I got to be in a relationship. And then you start overlooking all of the red flags that you should have addressed, but didn't because you made it part of your plan to be in a relationship. I'm going to tell you to pump the brakes on that.
Yeah.
What I would rather see, I'm not saying don't date. I'll talk about that in a second. I'd rather see you learning to have a good, loving, healthy relationship with yourself oh, and by the way, I'm dating. And if something works out based on me being in the dating space, then I can do that. But if it doesn't, I'm okay with myself. I'd rather that be a goal. I can't make your goals for you. I just think that's probably going to be more effective. And by the way, if you're dating and you're doing it right, you are going to be in a relationship. It may not be today. It may not be in the first quarter of 2025, but you will. You absolutely will. Let that part develop. Just do the right things in the meantime. Would you agree with that, at least that assessment?
Absolutely. Well, and that goes for all of us, right? It's like,
yes.
And think of it this way too, Joe, just a quick thought, like what kind of pressure are you putting on someone? Holy crap, man. Like that's exhausting, right? Like I already don't want to date you, right? Because I'm like, this is my year. It's like, no, dude, just be a stellar guy. Feel great about yourself. Feel great about how you're showing up in the world. That's the byproduct of you showing up powerfully for yourself.
Yeah. As far as dating goes, that's a tactic. And that's great. You know, getting yourself in the dating pool and making yourself available and, you know, finding out what you like and what you don't like. And that's good. You should definitely do that. So a couple of pointers I might give to you is dating apps are great. I know a lot of people bash on them and bag on them. If you do it right and you're there for the right reasons and you're honest with people, I actually think they're a really powerful way to meet women. It's also very non-threatening because if you're at the gym and you see this attractive woman every day and you really want to ask her out or you really want to get her number or strike up a conversation, there's a very real risk of rejection in that. You don't know if she's married. You don't know if she doesn't want anything to do with you. You know nothing. And you might still make your move, but you're going to face a lot of rejection in doing that. And that's not wrong. I'm just saying it exists. But on dating apps, that doesn't exist.
That's why they're there. Yeah.
A woman might as well, that woman who's at the gym that you like, she might as well slap a Post-it note on her head and say, I'm available. Because that's what dating apps are. And that's what you're doing too. You're slapping the Post-it note on your head saying, I'm available. The amazing thing that I saw and have heard about dating apps is that even though both parties said I'm available for a relationship, you guys have to agree on what that might look like, whether it's just a one-night stand type thing or something deep and meaningful. It was interesting to me that guys still had a hard time asking for dates. I don't understand that. She's there to meet men. She clicked on your profile. You clicked on hers. Why aren't you asking her on a date? So men are so afraid. Even when they know they should do it, they're so afraid to do it. So dating apps are good. Make sure if you are going to be on a dating app, you set up your profile correctly. You be respectful. You be honest. I would also say, you know, maybe not edgy necessarily, but just like be firm, be bold, be assertive. Put a good picture up of yourself. Like don't like snap a selfie in the mirror like right when you got out of the shower or whatever. Like actually take a nice picture of yourself or you out in public, but they actually look nice. That's a big one. And then here's the other thing, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier. When you go out with women, especially on the first date, no expectations. I want you to drop all of your expectations. I don't want you to think about getting laid. I don't want you to think about having a girlfriend. I don't want you to think about her being the next Miss Wonderful. The only expectation that you should have when you go on a date with a woman is I'm going to go out with her and see if she's somebody I'd like to go on a second date with. And then she can make that determination about me. But the quicker you do that, it's ironic. It's weird because when you put all these weird expectations, you alluded to this earlier, on women, they are repulsed by it. And when you drop the expectations and you just go to have a good time, they are attracted to it.
Yeah.
So take that to heart. But yeah, outside of that, yeah, definitely use friends. Approach women. I would even at the grocery store, even women you aren't interested in, I would learn how to strike up conversations with women. Let's say you're trying to pick an onion out or an avocado, and you see a woman next to you. Maybe you're not attracted to her necessarily, but she's alone. See if you can strike up a conversation. Ask her, hey, I don't know how to pick out avocados. How do you know which one's ripe? If you can do that in any environment, your game, so to speak, will move up tenfold very, very quickly.
Yeah. All right, last question. Joe Gunter. I am preparing to coach our church's young men's group through their goal setting for 2025. In your opinion, what is the most urgent goal, behavior, or habit that young men should work on that would advance the movement of men?
Responsibility. I was just thinking about our motto, protect, provide, preside. Every bit of that has responsibility in it. I think if more men across the planet understood that we have a sense of duty, obligation, and responsibility to perform, we would do what was necessary to do it. And that's not to say we do it perfect. I've always had a deep sense of responsibility in my life. I can thank probably a little bit of nature and a lot of my mom for helping me out with that.
Yeah.
But so I'm not saying even if you know how much responsibility and that you're meant to bear as a man, that if you knew that, you wouldn't fail. You still would fail. But I think you'd get on your feet faster. You'd serve people more effectively. You'd definitely love more people. And in return, you would build influence. And you would have the love that you desire, whether it's platonic or romantic. And you would have the clients and you would have the business. But all of that is the direct result of the responsibility that you're willing to bear and your ability to make yourself capable of dealing with it. You know, I put some weight on the bar this morning when I was at the gym, and it was the same weight I did last week. And so this week I decided to put 5 more pounds on. And I could do it. And I did it. I did all my reps with an additional 5 pounds. 3 weeks ago, I don't think I could have done that. I made myself more capable. It's the same thing at work. Make yourself more capable of making more money, impacting more people, serving your mission better. Make yourself physically stronger, mentally stronger. Make yourself capable of having conversations, making yourself capable of not allowing other people's opinion to spill over into yours or allowing their behavior to influence yours in some way, like making yourself a sovereign man. But I think at the root of it is being responsible for things, everything.
Yeah, I love that. I had the opportunity to do it was 6 weeks for like a youth around, it was actually around emotional resilience. And so it's a little bit on my mind of late. But, you know, a thought for you to Joe is like, as you look to coach these people, how critical emotional resilience is and how critical self-awareness is for them. Because otherwise the problem's always everywhere else until we are self-aware, right? And we actually start learning to mitigate and to understand the indicators on the dashboard that are called emotions, and what do we do with them, and how do we use them to our benefit towards a mission of being more capable and serving others. And so I can't help but think through the importance of those elements, especially with youth, and especially probably the youth of our day. I think this is one of the key areas that they're probably struggling with the most, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. I wrote down a couple of things that tie into resilience: adaptability and creativity.
Yeah.
Like I've seen grown men crumble at the slightest little inconvenience.
Yeah.
You know, the 16-year-old kid gets your mocha frappuccino order wrong and you completely flip out and it ruins your day. It's like, you got bigger problems to worry about than that $6 sugar bomb you're trying to put into your gut, if that's what's going to get you razzled for the day.
Totally. And our society today is rampant with victim mindset, where the problem is always everywhere else. We've outsourced our emotional state, our happiness. Everything else is not up to us to decide. And unfortunately, it's bleeding on over to the youth, I think. And this is why we constantly be looking for, you know, our rescuers, and the federal government needs to save us, or mom and dad. And it's like, man, they lack self-confidence, which is a result of having a victim mindset. And in doing so, they need their rescuers. It's really sad.
And a victim mindset is a direct result of lack of responsibility.
Yep.
You don't think you're responsible for your own life. You think somebody else is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope that helps. Let us know how it goes, because obviously that's very in alignment with our mission here.
Yeah.
So
and props, Joe. Right? Props for
absolutely.
coaching youth at your church, man. That's awesome. So way to level up and take on something like that. That's awesome.
Well, and that's exactly what we're trying to champion here. The fact that you're not just listening to a podcast, but you're getting out and you're impacting 40 young men. That's a big deal. Imagine if 40 guys impacted 40.
Awesome.
1,600 people impacted just like that. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen. Call to action really this week is enroll in the Iron Council. We're open for enrollment until the end of this month. In the past, you've let it bleed over a little bit past the first of the year.
Yeah, but I don't want to say that, even though we probably will, because I don't want you to wait. Get your ass in the game. If you know you're going to join the Iron Council and you've been sitting on the fence about, should I not? Maybe, well, what if they keep it open another week? No, just sign up right now. When the podcast is over, go to orderman.com/Iron Council, get registered. Don't think too much about it. You want to do it, and it's going to serve you. And you know what? Here's the worst case scenario. You jump in there and you see that everybody's an asshole and nobody's helping each other and there's no resources. And then you message me and you say, hey, Rye, this is dumb. I thought it was different than this. Can you give me my money back? And then I send you an email and says, yeah, here you go. And it goes back into your account in 3 days. That's the worst case scenario. I'll play those odds all day long.
Yeah, totally. What's our cutoff date for ordering swag from the store?
We're there. I will do everything I can to get it to you by Christmas. If you order it after today, I still will work diligently with my children, because we are the ones, my little elves. We're the ones who package up the presents and try to get them to you. We'll work diligently in getting those to you. I can't guarantee it at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent, sir.
Okay, guys. Appreciate it. Great questions today. Really enjoyed the conversation. And that's in part because of you. You guys listening, you guys asking thoughtful, powerful questions. That gives me fuel too. So we're all serving each other. All right, guys. We'll be back Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.